Hello, artist Jamari here with another Wild Roots art video. Join me today as I paint this beautiful piece called Elevated, a mixed media piece with watercolor and oil pastel, and tell you a really fascinating, empowering story from my life. This story is one of struggle, very scary situations, health stuff, and overcoming that, and belief, and just some really great things. It's kind of really intense throughout, but it has a beautiful ending, and I'm excited to share it with you. So first we're going to smudge off. We're going to smudge our hands and our painting space, get everything nice and clean, just clean out the energy. This painting is really beautiful and kind of embodies the essence of this story. So I just want to make sure that there's a really positive vibe before I get it going. And you notice that there is a little bit of paint on here. This is something that I had started way back when and just was so drawn to it that I decided to finish it. So I had just done one layer of the background and I'm going to complete it today. So it'll be fun to watch as I tell you this really interesting story. So really this started in 2000 because around that time I started to have these really weird random bouts of sickness, and I would just have extreme nausea, just these really weird things. My mom would take me to the different doctors in the area where we lived and nobody could seem to figure it out, and then suddenly, just as fast as it had come, it would completely go away and I would appear to be back to normal. So we didn't really think that it was anything very serious because we had went to the different doctors. They couldn't find anything, and it would just go away. So I'm a young adult. I'm going through life. I'm having crazy experiences. I have my first love. All this different stuff is going on in my life, and I'm going to college, and just all these different things. And suddenly I just start to notice that I'm having blurred vision, and I start to have it more and more frequently, to the point where I decide maybe I need some glasses and I need to go in and be seen by an eye doctor. So I'm a college student, like I said at the time, and I did not have health insurance because I just worked little part-time jobs and was going to school. So I just pick a random eye doctor in the mall, and it was weird because Spirit really directed me to him. I had called there to see if they had an appointment and thought I was calling another place to try to make an appointment, and it ended up being the same office. So it was like destined that I needed to go and see this specific doctor. So I go into my appointment, and I am just there to get glasses, and he starts the exam and he starts doing stuff that is just really flipping my eyes out, like, and not doing things that they typically do in a normal just like eye exam for glasses. He was shining lights in my eyes and doing these different things, and when he did that, it would make my vision go totally like cuckoo. I couldn't even explain it. It was just the craziest experience. And before I could even say something, he recognizes that something is very wrong, and he stops the appointment and starts asking me different medical questions. Now, predominantly through my life, I had always been extremely healthy. I had never had any major illnesses. I had never, had any medical problems growing up, nothing like that. And so the answer to all of his questions was no. So he has me wait in the lobby, and he calls some of his colleagues, I think, to like get a second opinion, and comes back and is just like, something is really going on with your vision. You really need to be seen by a doctor. I'm concerned, and the sooner the better. It's pretty emergent. So I leave there telling him that I'm going to do my best to get seen, but that I explained I didn't have health insurance and all of that I was a college student. So the next morning I get a call very bright and early, about 6 o'clock, and it's this eye doctor from the mall, and he's informing me that he has made an appointment for me with his own personal doctor. And I'm really taken aback by this, and at this point is realizing, okay, something pretty serious is going on. I need to go in and be seen. So I'm pretty sure that the appointment was for that morning. So I get ready, I go in, and the lady at the reception desk, I explain what's happening, laughs kind of and says, this is a place for senior citizens and you're going to have to go to the emergency room. I don't think she really laughed, but she just couldn't believe that I was there, because it was a specific doctor for senior citizens. So I go to the emergency room, they do an eye exam. I don't really understand what's going on. And so at some point I ask a nurse, like, yeah, do you know how long this is going to take? I'm supposed to go to work and, need to contact them. And she's like, yeah, you need to let them know that, you won't be coming in and it could be not for a while because this is really serious what's going on. So I'm like, what do you mean? And she's like, well, there's kind of two options to what is going on with you right now. Either you have brain tumors or you have a neurological disorder. And we are going to do a CAT scan right now to determine what that is. And before I knew it, I'm laying in the CAT scan machine before I can even really process what she's just said. And that machine's going round and round and round me. And I am having an emotional meltdown. I get through the CAT scan and thank God it comes back that I don't have brain tumors, but it's really likely that I have this serious neurological condition and I need to be seen right away by two different doctors they want me to see. So I leave, I see one, and they confirm that it's most likely that I do have the neurological disorder. There's extreme swelling on my optic nerves. That's what was going on is my optic nerves had extreme swelling and it was distorting my vision. And so they needed to determine why I had this pressure on my optic nerve. So the other resource to that was seeing a neurologist. And when I went to try to see them, they just totally shut me down and said that I didn't have health insurance and that I couldn't be seen. So I leave that appointment extremely upset, very frustrated. I don't know what to do. I call my mom and I'm just, very emotional, very upset, freaked out, and I'm just like, what do I do? They won't see me because I don't have insurance. And so she comes right away. She lived several hours away on the other side of the state. And she comes right away and she goes in and just like, puts her credit card down. Is like, I don't know, care how much it costs. Like, you're going to see my daughter. And from there, the ball gets rolling. And I'm going to just kind of skip through because from this point, every single day I was having some new test. I had all kinds of crazy things, spinal taps and brain scans and just very intense, extreme tests. And within a 2-week period, and then by the end of that 2-week period, I was scheduled and having neurological surgery. And it was just, my whole world was flipped upside down, literally. It went from me just thinking I needed glasses to my whole entire world being flipped upside down and preparing for neurological surgery. So it went from everything happening very fast and having all these procedures every day and then this grand, very scary surgery to then being on bed rest for over a year. And that's a whole nother story within itself that I will definitely share at another video. So look out for that. But yeah, it went from this extreme go, go, go and do all these things and get diagnosed and figure out what was wrong to everything being on hold and being like crazy in crazy, crazy, crazy pain. So what I was diagnosed with was called pseudotumor cerebri. And what that is like fake tumor is what pseudotumor means. I can't remember what the cerebri part means, but basically my body was producing extreme amounts of spinal fluid. And that spinal fluid was putting pressure on my optic nerves. And I should have literally probably lost a lot of my vision because my pressure was so high before I had the surgery. So there were two options and for the surgery part. And the first option was something called eye fenestration, where they literally were going to try to cut my eyeballs out. If you can believe that, especially now because I'm a visual artist. I just remind myself of that from time to time. Like, you could have had your eyeballs cut out and they wanted to go behind my eyeballs into my optic nerves and like do something that would release the pressure. But that was a very serious procedure that needed one specific doctor, like on the whole West Coast, that could do it. And the time frame was not going to work because I couldn't get in to see that doctor in enough time. I needed to have a surgery immediately. That's why it was 2 weeks away, right, when I had the next surgery. So anyways, they end up putting in what is called a lumbar shunt, and that drained my spinal fluid from my spine into my stomach and regulated my pressure, but it made my body feel like it was going to die. And so I needed to be on bed rest to protect my brain and my body so that it could adjust to this totally new thing that was happening. And that was very, very, very difficult. And like I said, a whole nother story within itself, that I won't share right now, just because it's very long and I just want to get through this experience, because within itself it's such a beautiful story. So I ended up having to move from the town that I lived in to where my family, the majority of my family lived, so that I could be taken care of, basically because I was on bed rest. And for the first part of it, my family was coming to where I lived. My mom and my grandma and some friends and family members took turns, but eventually I did have to move home. So there was a lot of change in that period of time. But during this time, especially right at the beginning, I had a clear vision. I remember, being in bed and just having this clear vision of being at a crossroads. And I knew that I had a decision to make, and that I could go with the doctors and listen to what they were saying, which was that I was going to suffer with this for the rest of my life and have to have multiple surgeries and probably still end up losing my vision, or that I could choose a different path, go against what my physical reality was showing me and believe in something unseen and higher and trust that I would find my way out of this situation. I decided at that moment that I was going to believe in something higher, that resonated so much more deeply with me than being sick for the rest of my life. I remember just having these flashes of all the things that I wanted to do. And if I believed the doctors and believed what they said, that most likely was not going to happen. And my life was going to be going in this totally different direction where I would be a victim and I would need to be taken care of and I would need all this assistance and most likely was going to go blind. I mean, that was the ultimate end result, was that I was going to lose my vision. I was going to go blind. And I needed to accept that and just be able to go through this and all these surgeries. And I could not, okay? I could not accept that. So for 2 years, I went through the medical system. I did what they said. I followed their instructions. But every time I knew my body better than they knew what was going on. I had different difficulties. They had to ultimately remove the shunt. It had come loose and was floating around in my body. I told the doctor that something was wrong. They told me that no, I didn't know what I was talking about until they did a CAT scan and realized that it was literally floating around inside my body and they had to do emergency surgery to remove it. I had multiple surgeries after that. I was sick. I did go back to work and get back on my feet eventually, but I still was having a lot of problems and was still kind of, it was like this ebb and flow, this up and down. I would be better for a while and then I would get really sick. But through it all, through all the ups and downs, I continued to educate myself, read books that expanded my mind, read books that showed me there was more to reality. One of the most amazing books that I read at that time that had just come out was The Power of Now. And that book to me was like literally reading the never ending story. It was just like I would read something and then have the experience or have the experience and then read it in the book. It was just beautiful. And so I just took that time, even the time that I was on bed rest, to educate myself. I read. I would, my family would go to the library for me. My mom luckily had an amazing book collection of a lot of really kind of spiritual new age type books, higher consciousness books. And I just read everything and anything that came in my direction. I read, oh my gosh, so many different books. I couldn't even begin to name them all. And through that, it gave me an understanding that there is more to reality than what we sometimes see or experience. And so I kept the belief that I would find a way through to healing through all of it, through all the doctors, through all the surgeries, through all the missteps, because the neurosurgeon had malpractice suits. I mean, like, this story could go on for hours if I wanted to get into every detail, but I'm trying to keep it pretty short. So, yeah, it was literally so crazy. And through all of that, it was such a test of strength and character and strength of mind because I continued to believe that I would find a way. I continued to believe, I just didn't give up. I would not give in to what the doctor said, even if they said that I was going to continue to suffer. I needed to do this or that. Or at one point they said maybe I didn't even have that disease or that disorder. Maybe I had something else and wanted me to take all this other medication. And it just really taught me a lot about the Western medical system as well. You know, there's definitely bonuses and things that the Western medical system is very good at and to utilize, but there's also things that is not very good at. And one thing is looking at the whole entire body. They look at pieces and aspects of it. They don't look at the whole system. They look at parts. They look at pieces of it. And that was very clear. It was clear that also that they wanted to continue to give me medication but never really fix the problem. I was determined to find a solution to my problem as a 21, 22, 23-year-old person going through this. Like, this is not going to be the rest of my life. So I continued to pray and just, I did go to different Native American ceremonies that I participate in and kept my faith strong and just went through the ups and downs. And I found my cure in the most random way. And this is how spirit works. I worked at the time in an office in human resources and sat at a desk all the time, and it was really hurting my back. And so I had asked my coworkers if they knew of a good chiropractor. One of my coworkers said she knew a great one. Her whole family went. They all loved him, but he was so good that the wait was pretty long. I think I had to wait about 3 months to even be seen. So I went ahead and made the appointment because I needed somebody that was good because I had these shunts and all these things, Couldn't just go to somebody that was going to really crack me hard. And eventually my appointment rolls around, and so I go to the appointment and I explain to him, that he has to be careful in these certain areas because I had a lumbar shunt. And he was not just a chiropractor, he was actually a medical doctor of orthopedics or PhD, I don't know, whatever that is, doctor of orthopedics. He had studied the skeletal system, he had studied the bones, and he knew things about the body that a neurologist would not. Now, all along, I had been seeing neurologists, neuro-ophthalmologists, and people that were dealt with your nerves and your nervous system because it was my spinal fluid I had too much. But this doctor, because he knew the skeletal system, understood that there were 2 notches in your spine that regulated the spinal fluid production and circulation in your body. And so he started to ask me these different questions. And one that was very, very specific and really helpful was if I had ever fallen. And honestly, I had fallen right before I started to get sick. When I told you I started to have these bouts of random sickness, I had fallen down some stairs at a friend's house when I was about 17. I really hurt myself and I thought I had broke my tailbone. I was in bed or was just not really walking for days after that. And that was when my problem started. He explained to me that one of the notches was at the base of your spine near your tailbone. And he thought that when I had fallen down those stairs, I had knocked that thing out of whack and my body had started to create too much spinal fluid because the notch at the base of my spine was out of whack to regulate it. Now talk about a miracle, right? Like, this is a chiropractor I went to because my back hurt. I was not going to him to fix my pseudotumor cerebri. I had no idea that he knew any of this information. But this is how spirit works. And this is why when you have faith in something, you have to let it go. You can't put it in a box and think that you're going to be able to think your way into whatever miracle you're trying to manifest. You just have to know that it's going to come and know that it's going to happen and let universe work its magic and bring it to you, right? So after this discussion, he adjusted me, never even like twisting or cracking my spine. He used one of these little guns that chiropractors sometimes use, and it literally like taps you. It doesn't do anything. And he did that. I want to say if I did go to him 4 times, I don't think so. I think I went 2 or 3 times to see him. and my problem was gone. Now it has been 20 years since that has happened, and I have not had problems with my spinal fluid or my vision or anything like that since I was adjusted. I was literally cured by a chiropractor. It was the most amazing thing. So once I had found my way to healing, I thought it was really, really important to go back and thank that eye doctor at the mall that had first originally diagnosed me and made me an appointment with his personal physician, because he had saved my life and, saved my vision, and which ultimately saved my life, because if I had lost my vision, my life would have totally changed so drastically. And so it's just really important for me to take the time out to do that. I know he was taken aback. I don't remember him really remembering me that much. It wasn't something that really stood out to him as this whole big thing, but I just wanted to let him know that him just going that little bit of extra mile really changed the course of my life. It saved my vision, it saved my health, and it was just so important. So that he knew that, he had done something good. We always are quick to typically complain or tell somebody when they've done something wrong, but we also need to take the time out to let somebody know when they've done something right. And that was something that, just like I said, it just saved me. So I really made a mission to go back and thank him. And luckily he was still there. I mean, it had been like 2 or 3 years, but he was still there, and he didn't know all the stuff that had gone on with me after that. So I just felt really fortunate to be able to do that and spread that feeling to him and let him know that, like, he had made a difference in my life. So I had another experience that made this huge impact on my life and just was a clear, like, visual representation of the other decision that when I was at that crossroads, that I could have made. Like 5 or 6 years later now, I'm going back to college. I've moved to a different town, and I randomly take a pottery class because I love ceramics and love art. Now I'm an artist, and I just thought, well, why not? Let me take a ceramics class, because I don't have access to a kiln unless, whatever. So I take the ceramics class. It's just a beginner's class. And one day while I'm sitting in class, I see this young lady come in, and she has a seeing eye dog, and it's clear that she is blind. And I am just like instantly drawn to her. First of all, I think it's so amazing and beautiful that a blind person would be doing ceramics and throwing clay on a wheel and doing that, and just thinking about their sensory things and just how amazing that would be. Also, I definitely had a connection with blind people because I nearly went blind. And so I was always kind of still aware of that reality at this point, understanding that I could have easily went blind and my life changed drastically. So anyways, I was drawn to this young lady. Eventually, I get to know her. I ask her to lunch. And during our conversation, I ask how she lost her vision. She tells me that she had the exact same sickness that I had, pseudotumor cerebri. But instead of having faith in something higher, she trusted the medical system, had several surgeries, completely lost her vision, and was totally succumbed to needing help and all these things because she had went from a seeing person to a non-seeing person. She had recently got her seeing eye dog, which was really helpful and allowed her to be more independent, but she basically had no independence. And it was like looking at someone who had taken the other path. It was the most one of the most awe-inspiring moments of my life, honestly. Because this was a very rare condition. This was not something that I've never met another person in my life that has had this condition. It is extremely rare. It is something that you don't meet people who've even heard of it, let alone had it, let alone lost their vision because of it. Her and I talked for hours, and she told me just all these things, and I opened my heart to her, and I listened to her, and I was there for her because I knew that that could have easily been me. Just in a different time or a different life or a different dimension, that could have been me. And it just really showed me the power of the Great Spirit, the power of the universe, the power of manifestation, the power of our mind. It was really like, look at this. This could have been you. Your life wouldn't have been over. I mean, she still was doing beautiful things. She still was participating in art, but she had a victim mentality. She was a victim to her circumstances in more ways than I was, and I could feel that difference in our conversation. And right when we had that conversation was right before I made a huge life change and up and moved to Belize, Central America, where I had never been, sight unseen, to run a school with my friend. That's what I was going to college for, was education, because I had this really grand idea to open early education based schools, early education schools based in cultural sustainability. And that was what I was working towards. So those are all other stories that are definitely coming up in Jamari's crazy life. But this story of my sickness is one that is very dear and near to my heart, because it was the first chance. Like I said, I believed through all the struggles, all the hardships that I went through, that I would find a way to healing, and I did, in the most random way. And I was able to travel. I was able to go and live in Central America for several years. I did run a school with one of my best friends for 3 years. I lived on an island and swam with sharks and played with octopus. I mean, I've really done some beautiful, amazing things with my life. And I also made a promise to myself in that time that if I made it out of that, if I manifested a way to health, when I was really trying to conjure up all that, that I would never settle in my life. I would live my life passionately. I would follow my dreams. I would follow my purpose and follow my goals, and that I would not settle or live a meek life, because I understood that it's so precious and it's so short, and at any moment it can change very drastically. And so I lived my life. I held true to that promise for myself. So that is ultimately why I have so many amazing stories to share with you, because I have never settled in my life, and I've lived this really passionate life that I had all these amazing experiences and really challenged myself and took really big risks, and, did things that were fun and some were scary, and just everything in between. And I'm excited to share those with you, because there's so many deep lessons and just experiences in life that are valuable, not just to me, but to other people as well. So thank you for joining me up until this point. I really hope that you learned something or enjoyed this story. It was entertaining for you. If you did, please like this video and subscribe to my page. I would truly appreciate it, deeply appreciate it. It helps us creatives to push, when people show their appreciation, and it's so simple just to do something like push those little like buttons or subscribe if you like the art and you like the story. And I hope that you take away from this some beautiful lesson for yourself in trusting yourself, or having deep levels of faith, just like this painting elevated. She is in such a deep state of meditation that she's floating in the clouds. And sometimes in life, that's how we have to be. We have to just truly, deeply believe, to where we go out of this physical reality up into, the clouds, to get some sense of peace and be able to manifest the life of our dreams, which is totally possible. And those rays of light represent the rays of the Great Spirit's love, always shining down on us, always illuminating us, even when it seems very dark. So thank you again for joining me, Artist Jamari, for this Wild Roots art video. I sincerely appreciate it. I wish you a beautiful, blessed day or night, whatever it is for you when you're watching this. And look out for more videos coming very soon.